Hey guys, tonight we travel to a city known more for its shipyards and rainy skies than organized crime. But Glasgow in the 1960s had its fair share of secrets, and tonight we're diving deep into one of them. Picture a narrow lane in Springburn, still slick from the misty dawn, where the clink of milk bottles is just beginning to echo against stone walls. A solitary figure in a white coat pushes a rickety handcart. His steps are slow, methodical. He's the milkman, just another friendly face on a quiet Scottish street. But inside his coat pocket is something heavier than coins. Not a pistol, not today. Today it's a note, hastily written, folded 3 times. A name, an address, and a payday. He probably won't survive a week in his shoes. Not unless you've got nerves made of granite and the face of someone who never talks. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The rain's just a drizzle as Tommy Callahan makes his way up Dornoch Street. It's 5:42 a.m. He's early. He's always early. The other milkmen used to tease him for it, but not anymore. People have stopped teasing Tommy altogether, and not just because of his size. The air smells of wet granite and last night's spilled lager. Up ahead, Mrs. Drummond's light is already on. She'll be waiting for her usual 2 pints and the gossip from down the street. Tommy doesn't gossip. Never did. He delivers milk. That's it. Reliable, predictable, and, if you ask the wrong people, available for other jobs too. In Springburn, no one asks directly. You ask for a favor, or you mention someone's unfortunate luck. The language is all smoke and lace curtains. And Tommy? He's fluent. This morning, his cart rattles over uneven paving stones, past the railway line. He pauses for a second, not out of breath, just listening. Always listening. That's what kept him alive this long. His father once said, "There are 2 kinds of people in Glasgow. The ones who talk, and the ones who make sure they never do it again." Tommy delivers to 12 houses before he reaches the one with the flickering porch bulb. Number 38. Nobody ever waves from that house. Nobody smiles. But the empty bottles are always washed and left neatly by the gate. Tommy likes that. Respect. He slips the folded paper through the letterbox with the subtlety of someone who's done it before. It's not a message. It's a signal. Someone in that house will be gone by nightfall. Not by Tommy's hand, but by one of the others. He's just the middleman, milkman, hitman. Sometimes both. The sun never fully rises in Springburn. It just hovers behind gray clouds like it's ashamed. That suits Tommy fine. He doesn't like being seen. He doesn't wear a watch, but he knows the time by how many steps it takes him to reach the old primary school. That's where he once threw a cricket bat at a kid who tried to take his sandwich. That's also where he got his first black eye. By the time he loops around to Firhill Road, the streets are starting to stir. Cars, radios, a woman shouting at her dog. Normal life. And Tommy, he blends into it all with practiced ease. He could be your neighbor, your cousin, the guy you see every morning but never really see. That's how he survived the first 5 years in this business. Not by shooting first, not by hiding, just by being ordinary in every visible way. No tattoos, no flashy clothes, a short back and sides, and a milk cart with a squeaky wheel that no one thinks to fix. But underneath that quiet, unremarkable surface, there's a ledger, a list, not on paper. God, no, never write things down. It's all in his head, faces, addresses, debts. The first time he took money for something extra, he told himself it was a fluke, a one-off, helping a friend. But that friend introduced him to someone else, and they needed help too. It's amazing how fast just once becomes just this one more. Tommy didn't fall into crime like a drunk into the Clyde. He stepped into it, carefully, with clean shoes and a straight back. One time, a kid on a bike shouted, "Oi, mister, are you the Milkman or the Undertaker?" Tommy had smiled. He didn't smile often, but that one stuck with him. "Both, son," he murmured under his breath. Depending on the day, the route ends at the same place every morning, the back of a shop that doesn't technically exist. It sells nothing. No customers, no signage. But the windows are barred, and the door is always locked. Tommy knocks 3 times, waits, then once more. A small hatch slides open. A pair of eyes looks at him, then the door creaks just wide enough to let him in. Inside, it smells of old leather and ink. A man with a half-burnt ear counts money without looking up. He nods toward the corner, where Tommy deposits a canvas bag. Inside, not just cash from collections, but something heavier wrapped in cloth. Not his business. He never asks. And they like him better for it. There's no thank you. Just a nod. He nods back. Then he's out again, back into the morning light, pushing an empty cart. Many people still think that Glasgow's crime scene in the 60s was all pub fights and stolen radios. But the reality was quieter, more patient, built not on brute force, but on a web of favors, silence, and subtle movements like Tommy's. So what do you think? Was he born for this? Or did the city shape him like water-carved stone? He turns a corner. Someone honks. He doesn't flinch. Another day, another round. Another bottle. Another name. The milkman keeps walking. The rain doesn't stop in Springburn. Just changes its mind. Now it drizzles like a leaky kettle over rooftops, making everything shimmer in that gray-blue light that only Glasgow knows. Tommy Callahan doesn't notice. His boots already squish when he walks, and his coat, well, it's more memory than material now. He's thinking of birds, not pigeons, not the fat ones that strut across the pavement like they own it. No, he's thinking of crows, big, black, glossy creatures with eyes that look too human. As a boy, Tommy used to sit for hours watching them from the tenement roof, while other kids played footy in alleyways or pinched sweets from Mr. Potty's shop. Tommy was the strange one, perched alone with a crust of bread in hand, flicking crumbs toward the birds like a priest with a sermon. He liked their sharpness, their calculation, how they didn't move unless they absolutely had to. It was as if they were always thinking 2 steps ahead, just like he would learn to do. His mother called it brooding. His father called it weird. But neither of them stopped him. Not really. Maybe they thought he'd grow out of it, like he did his stammer or the tooth gap that made him whistle when he said school. Instead, he grew into it. By the time he was 12, he'd named every crow in the old cemetery. Reggie, Black Socks, Mags, Little Bastard. He could tell them apart by their caws, their scars, their odd little limps, and they seemed to recognize him too. Sometimes one would land on the ledge beside him and just sit, blinking slowly like it knew something he didn't. There was peace in that. A strange kind of stillness that made the noise of the world shrink down. Of course, this was also when Tommy started noticing other watchers. Men in suits that didn't quite fit. Men who smoked without ever lighting their cigarette. Men who stood too long outside the chip shop but never went in. They weren't police. Not really. And they weren't quite gangsters either. They were something in between. People called them the Meantime Men. You'd hear their name whispered between lampposts. He got caught by the Meantime Men. Don't owe nothing to the Meantime Men. If the Meantime Men come round, shut your curtains and say you've gone to Largs. Nobody knew who they worked for. Maybe everyone, maybe no one. But they were always around. And one morning, Tommy saw them looking at him. He was sitting in the usual spot, third step from the top, coat zipped up to the chin, birds around him like a living cloak. One of the Meantime Men walked by, stopped, and just watched. Didn't say anything. Didn't move. Just stared with that slow Glasgow deadpan, like he was trying to see what Tommy might become. And Tommy, he didn't blink. He fed a crust to Reggie and kept his mouth shut. That silence stuck with him. Years later, when his school counselor asked why he didn't have friends, he said, "I do, just not the noisy kind." The man smiled like he was trying to be kind, but Tommy saw the edge of pity behind it. Still, he wasn't completely alone. There was Gino, the Sicilian boy with hands too quick for magic tricks and a laugh like broken glass. Gino lived 2 floors down and had a thing for knives. He'd flash one at anyone who crossed him, but he never once pointed it at Tommy. Maybe because Tommy didn't flinch, or maybe because Tommy gave him space. They'd talk sometimes, mostly about birds or books, or how they both wanted to leave Glasgow, but didn't know where else to go. "You think there's crime in Paris?" Gino asked once, chewing a matchmaker. Tommy just raised an eyebrow. Is that a real question? But Tommy also noticed something else back then. He was invisible to most. Teachers barely remembered his name. Police didn't look twice. Even when he was caught with a pack of stolen fags in his sock, the constable just ruffled his hair and said, "Don't be daft." It wasn't that he was good at lying. It was that people wanted to believe he was good. That kind of misdirection? That's power, even if you don't use it right away. Mainstream history likes to focus on the big names, the ones in headlines. But in the shadows of 1960s Glasgow, the people who really ran things weren't on the posters. They were on delivery routes, or mopping bar floors, or quietly feeding birds on a tenement roof. And Tommy? He was all three. By age 15, he had already worked at the dairy. Just a lad, sweeping floors, hauling crates. But even then, his manager said, "There's something in that one. Bit too quiet if you ask me." They called him the Ghost. He didn't mind. At night, he'd help Gino run messages. Not drugs. Not yet. Just information. Slips of paper, names, where someone might be found at a given hour. It was stupid work, but it paid more than milk ever did. And when you grew up in Springburn, you didn't ask too many questions about money. You just took it before someone else did. And always the birds watched. Tommy once saw Reggie dive at a seagull twice its size, peck it in the eye, then fly off like nothing happened. That stuck with him. Small doesn't mean soft. Quiet doesn't mean weak. He learned from them. When to move. When to wait. When to strike. There's a photo somewhere. Tommy as a boy, crouched beside a milk cart, blackbird perched on his shoulder like a pirate's parrot. His mum hated that photo. "You look like you belong in the bloody graveyard," she'd say. But Tommy kept it anyway. Slipped it inside a book about bird migration and never told her. Many people still think that teenage crime starts with a broken home or bad grades. But sometimes it starts with a good memory, a sharp eye, and a few too many hours watching the world from rooftops. So, what do you think? If you'd seen that kid back then, silent, bird-covered, eyes like cold tea, would you have guessed he'd become someone feared? By 16, he wasn't just feeding birds, he was feeding information. And soon, someone would feed him a name that would change everything. Tommy is 17 when he starts delivering milk for real. Not just sweeping floors or stacking crates, but pushing his own cart down the same cobbled lanes he once ran through barefoot as a boy. It's honest work, sort of, and that's exactly why it makes the perfect cover. He wears the uniform with mechanical ease. White coat, flat cap, face that never smiles too long. On the surface, he's just another lad trying to earn an honest wage in a city that doesn't always reward it. But behind that same soft clink of bottles, the routine becomes something far more convenient. You see, when you're a milkman, people trust you. You come at dawn, when the world is still half asleep. You're invited into back gardens, side doors, kitchens. People leave notes for you, coins, secrets. They tell you things in passing, who's moved out, who's got a dog that bites, who's gone on holiday and left a key with the neighbor. They assume you're harmless because you carry milk. And Tommy? He listens. Every word, every shrug, every little careless whisper from people who think the milkman doesn't matter. It begins small. Mrs. Kavanagh leaves him an envelope. Just 10 quid inside. No note. Next day, he's told her nephew got off easy in court. Tommy doesn't ask how the two are connected. He just tucks the envelope in his pocket like it's a receipt. Then there's the meat man, skinny guy named Harris who sells dodgy sausages from the back of his van. He asks Tommy to carry a parcel 3 streets down. Just bread, he says, grinning. Tommy doesn't open it. But the next morning, he finds a $5 wedged between 2 milk bottles on Harris's step. It smells like lamb grease and bribe. That's the moment it starts clicking. Springburn isn't a community. It's a network, and the milkman walks the wires. One evening, he's sitting in the back room of the dairy depot, drinking lukewarm tea and watching a fly struggle against the window pane. Gino walks in without knocking. He never knocks. He drops a tin on the table. Inside, a gold lighter, engraved, heavy, expensive. From the bakery lot, Gino says, sitting down and lighting a cigarette with a match instead. They liked the way you handled that cop. Didn't say a word. Tommy hadn't even realized he'd been noticed. 3 days earlier, he'd been stopped outside a betting shop. A local constable had asked about a man seen running with a crowbar. Tommy had shrugged, said, "I only run for spilled milk," and pointed to his cart. The constable laughed, told him to keep his nose clean. Apparently someone had been watching. That gold lighter is the first real gift Tommy receives from the people who don't leave receipts. It's not a payment. It's a marker. A signal that he's trusted now. Useful. And once you're useful, you're never just a milkman again. The routes start changing. Tommy's no longer limited to just Springburn. He's asked, politely of course, to cover routes in Dennistown, then Postle, then Govanhill. And each new territory means new people, new houses, new habits. Some streets have front gardens that haven't seen a lawnmower since the war. Others have lace curtains that twitch whenever his cart rattles by. In Govanhill, a tall woman with stained fingers asks if he knows a man named Sweeney. Tommy says no. She stares too long before nodding. Later that night, a man named Sweeney is found floating in the Clyde. The woman never orders milk again. He doesn't report it. He never reports anything. He's not police. He's not criminal. He's in between. Like the meantime men used to be. The people at the dairy notice his silence. His boss, a barrel-chested man named Paddy, once tells him, "You're the kind of lad who could hear a gunshot and still ask if they want whole or skimmed." Tommy doesn't reply. Paddy laughs and gives him an extra shift. One cold Thursday, Tommy is stopped outside the Greyhound pub by a man wearing too much cologne and a trilby. The man doesn't say his name, doesn't have to. Tommy's seen him before, talking to Gino near the snooker hall. The man lights a cigarette and says, "You've got a good route. People trust you. That's valuable." Tommy shrugs. "They want milk. I deliver it." The man grins. "Ever think about delivering other things?" There it is, the pitch. Tommy doesn't answer right away. He waits. The man takes this as interest and continues. "Nothing heavy. No drugs, no guns, just notes, little parcels. Sometimes just a name. You don't ask what it means and you don't open it. You just walk the route and drop it where it needs to go." Tommy asks, "And if I don't?" The man shrugs. "Then you keep delivering milk, maybe forever. Or maybe you fall behind your rent and someone else gets your route. It's not a threat, it's just economics." Tommy agrees. Not because he's scared, but because he sees the logic in it. He's already part of the system. This just puts a name to what he's been doing anyway. Many people still think that crime arrives with a bang. A robbery, a betrayal, a shot fired in the dark. But sometimes it arrives in increments. A favor here, a quiet nod there. And before you know it, you're delivering more than milk, and you've forgotten when the shift happened. So what do you think? Is it really a choice if the only alternative is disappearing? By winter, Tommy's cart has a false bottom. Just a narrow space, wide enough for a parcel or a folded map. The milk stays on top. The real work is underneath. And every morning, he walks the route like nothing's changed. Only everything has. It's a Wednesday when the parcel arrives wrapped in wax paper, tucked between 2 cream bottles that no one ordered. Tommy knows immediately it's not dairy. The paper is thick, sealed with butcher's twine. No name, no address, just a smudge of red wax and a folded note taped on top. Cap off, cap on, payment inside. He doesn't pause, doesn't ask. Just slides it into the false bottom of his cart and continues up High Craighall Road like he's thinking about breakfast. The paper makes no sound, but it carries weight. A kind of moral density you can feel in your bones. He delivers it to a semi-detached house with chipped green shutters, where a dog always barks but never bites. He slides the package into the crate like any other bottle. And then he places a standard pint of full fat on top, capping the message with literal milk. Cap off, cap on, message sent, just like the note instructed. The next morning, there's an envelope waiting in his usual delivery crate. Inside, 3 crisp 20s, clean, dry, no trace of fingerprints. He doesn't count them in public, never does, but he feels the weight. It's more than his weekly pay at the dairy, and this time there's a note. "Your route's been noted, you'll be asked again." Tommy doesn't show it, but his chest tightens. He's never liked being seen, noticed. That's not part of his plan. He's a shadow in daylight, a breeze in alleyways. You don't see the milkman. You just assume he's there. But now, someone's watching. It doesn't take long for the second job to come. This time, it's heavier, wrapped in a butcher's apron, soaked in something that smells like metal. It goes to a butcher's shop, ironically, left in the alley behind it, like forgotten trash. Tommy doesn't flinch. He just wipes his hands after. But what truly cements it, the moment his role becomes something more, is what happens 3 weeks later. It starts with a crate, a delivery he didn't make. He finds it outside number 42 Dalhousie Street. It's not his handwriting on the milk caps. The bottles aren't from his round, but they're there, sitting on the step. A signal. He knocks. The woman who answers looks terrified. Her hands shake as she fumbles for coins. "I didn't order this," she says. "I know," Tommy replies, taking the bottles back into his cart. Wrong house. She watches him go like he's a ghost. That night, Gino meets him behind the old bingo hall. "You handled it clean," he says. They noticed. "Who's they?" Tommy asks. Gino just smirks and flicks a cigarette into a puddle. "You'll know when it matters, and that's the thing." Tommy never asks more than necessary. It's not just discipline. It's defense. The less you know, the less they can rip out of you if someone ever gets clever with pliers. But something shifts that month. He begins hiding things, not just cash, information. He starts a ledger, not on paper, but in his head. Names, routes, dates, who owes what, who got nervous. He tracks patterns, learns rhythms, studies fear, because fear, he's come to learn, leaves clues. The way someone lingers at a window, how quickly they answer the door, whether they make eye contact. These are tells, markers. And Tommy's learning to read them like a priest reads sins. By now, his cart isn't just a cart. It's a message board, a vault, a weapon. He adds compartments, slides, hides, and inside the cap of one bottle, just once, he slips a coin that's been scratched with a razor, a test, a trap, a signal that says, "I see you seeing me." The coin disappears, no one ever mentions it. From then on, he uses the bottle caps to communicate. 3 scratches, drop at alternate time, 1 chip on the rim, don't approach, blue wax, danger, no cap at all, don't even open the crate. It's a language only a few people understand. And the people who don't? They're not his problem. One morning he hears laughter from a window. A boy, 6, maybe 7, waves at him. "Milkman," he shouts, beaming. "Are you the one who brings the chocolate milk?" Tommy nods. Sometimes the boy's mother shushes him. She watches Tommy carefully. There's something in her eyes. Recognition, perhaps. Or regret. It doesn't matter. She tips him an extra shilling and never asks about the scratches on the bottle. There's a mainstream belief that post-war Glasgow was all grit and labor. Shipbuilding, textile mills, long days and longer nights. And sure, that's partly true. But behind those steel doors and soot-streaked bricks, there were other economies. Hidden ones. And Tommy Callahan became an efficient cog in the one that didn't pay tax. The police never bother him. Why would they? He's polite, punctual, unassuming. He once helped an officer carry groceries after a flood. The man sent him a Christmas card the next year. It read, "To the most reliable lad in Springburn. Don't ever change." Tommy framed it. So, what do you think? If you saw a man pushing a milk cart with a small smile and a careful step, would you guess he'd smuggled 29 messages in the past month, 3 of which led to violence? Probably not. That's the point. He leaves number 38 with a bottle in hand. It's empty. He slides it back into the cart, and under the cap, a folded slip of paper, barely larger than a thumb. Tomorrow, someone's going to disappear, and Tommy will have delivered them the beginning of the end. The day Tommy breaks a man's hand, he's not even angry. It happens behind a betting shop just off Maryhill Road, in that dead little alley with bins that always smell like old meat pies and disappointment. Rain slicks the cobbles, as usual. A dull sky hangs overhead like a soaking dishcloth. The man's name is Nori, short for Norman, but no one calls him that anymore. He used to run errands for the local bookie, collecting debts mostly. But lately, he's been getting greedy, holding back bits of cash here and there. Small amounts, nothing dramatic. But in this line of work, it's not about the money. It's about the message. Tommy's not here by accident. Gino sent him. More accurately, someone above Gino sent the message through Gino, and Gino passed it along to Tommy with nothing more than, "Break it. Just the hand." Tommy asked no questions. He rarely does. He's already dropped the milk at 2 bakeries, 3 homes, and a barber shop when he takes the left into the alley. His cart clinks, echoing off the damp stone walls. Nori's there, leaning against the brickwork, lighting a cigarette like he's on break from a 9 to 5. "Callahan," he says, nodding. "Milk or meat today?" Tommy doesn't respond. He just stops the cart a few feet away and pulls off his gloves, slow, deliberate, folding them and placing them into the coat pocket like a man preparing to carve a roast. Nori chuckles. What's the game then? He doesn't get the answer he wants. Just a sharp movement, a half step forward, and Tommy drives the edge of his metal milk crate right into Nori's left wrist. The sound is crack meats pop, like biting into a marrow bone. Nori goes down with a scream, dropping his cigarette, his bravado, and what little future he had as a collector. Tommy says nothing. He wipes the crate's edge with a cloth, places it back onto the cart, and keeps walking. His boots leave no splash. His coat barely flutters. He doesn't even glance back. This is not rage. It's not vengeance. It's accounting. The next morning, Nori's debts are cleared. Not because he paid, but because he's now unavailable for service. He disappears for 6 weeks, reappears with a brace and a limp and a haunted look in his eyes whenever someone mentions dairy. Tommy never sees him again. Word spreads fast. Soon, people stop mistaking his silence for softness. The ones who used to wink or slap his back when he passed start nodding instead. Brief nods, respectful, cautious. Gino notices the shift too. "You've got presence now," he says over chips one night. It's subtle, like poison in tea. Tommy raises an eyebrow. "You always this poetic with vinegar on your fingers?" "Only for you, sweetheart," Gino smirks. But beneath the teasing, there's truth. This business, whatever this is, isn't built on drama. It's built on tension, quiet power, the understanding that some people don't need to shout. Tommy becomes that person. He doesn't relish the violence, but he accepts it. It's part of the transaction. Sometimes milk, sometimes pain. He never confuses the two. There's a knock at his flat one night. A man with a comb-over and the hands of a piano teacher offers him a job. Not a hit, nothing bloody, just surveillance. A woman in Partick has been seen talking to the wrong people. They want to know if it's gossip or intent. Tommy agrees. He walks her street for a week, bottle caps tucked into his coat, pretending to be lost, or delivering to a friend who just moved in. He learns her habits. The way she always lights her hallway at exactly 5:50 p.m. The man who visits, who wears gloves even in summer. The parcel she leaves under her doormat twice a week. Always gone by dawn, he reports back, quietly, efficiently. They give him cash and ask nothing more. He's a milkman. He's also a shadow. People talk around him, not to him. That's exactly how he likes it. Many people still think criminal reputations are made with guns or speeches, but in cities like Glasgow, cities shaped by shipyards and soot, and a hard kind of silence, it's consistency that makes a man dangerous. Tommy shows up every day, rain or sleet, death or debt. He once delivered milk to a house where someone had died in the night. Just sitting in a chair, cigarette still lit. Tommy didn't call anyone. He just left the bottle like always, stepped over the neighbor's cat, and marked the address off his list. Later, someone thanked him for not making a scene. It wasn't sarcasm. It was genuine. That's the kind of man he's become. So, what do you think? Is he just adapting to his environment, or becoming something else entirely? One evening, He returns home to find a single crow perched on the window ledge. Reggie? Probably not. But for a second, Tommy swears the bird recognizes him, tilts its head, blinks, approves. The next job is coming. He doesn't know what it is. He doesn't need to. His hands are already clean again. Tommy Callahan doesn't enjoy hurting people, but he also doesn't not enjoy it. It's something he reflects on more than you'd expect. Usually late at night, after the last bottle has been delivered and his coat is hung, still damp, by the radiator. He'll sit in the quiet of his single-room flat, staring at the chipped teacup in his hands, asking himself, was I always this cold? He doesn't drink. Not really. A nip of whiskey on holidays, maybe. But he likes clarity, likes feeling every second as it passes. There's a control in sobriety. And Tommy, more than most, values control. That's why, when he's given his first real job, one that doesn't involve bottles or coded notes, he hesitates. It comes through Gino, as usual. No envelope, no instructions. Just a quiet meeting behind the shuttered window of a defunct travel agency that now sells curtains, and definitely doesn't have a room in the back where people smoke and never laugh. Gino keeps it light. Tommy boy, he says, voice low and teasing. You're about to graduate. Tommy doesn't smile. The job is simple, at least on paper. There's a man, low-level fixer, too chatty, goes by Bren McKee. He's been skimming from a job that isn't his, not money, but information. Passing names to outsiders, English ones, London ones. That's the real problem. You're not killing him, Gino clarifies, but he needs to know what the cost of speaking out of turn is. How far? Tommy asks. Gino leans back, exhales smoke. Make him wish he'd never spoken. They give Tommy a car. Not a fast one, but clean, unremarkable. No milk cart today. He drives with gloved hands, eyes scanning every mirror like he's studied surveillance manuals, which, truthfully, he hasn't. But he learns fast. Always has. Bren lives in a top-floor flat near Duke Street, the kind where wallpaper peels and everyone knows when your kettle boils. Tommy waits until midnight, listens for the building's sleep rhythm, the flushing toilets, the floorboard creaks, the radio shows fading into static. Then he moves. He doesn't knock. He doesn't shout. Just picks the lock quietly. Inside, it smells of fish paste and damp socks. The kitchen light is on, dim. Bren is at the table, halfway through a game of solitaire and a lukewarm pasty. He barely has time to look up. Tommy moves fast, efficient. He grabs Bren's collar, slams his face onto the Formica table. 1, 2, 3 strikes. Clean. Then he flips the man's hand palm up and brings the butt of his revolver, cold, smooth metal, down across the fingers. Bone cracks like cheap china. Bren howls. Tommy doesn't speak. That's part of the effect. No words, no threats. Just action. When he's done, he leaves the gun sitting on the table. Unloaded, but heavy. It's a reminder. As he walks down the stairs, someone opens a door 2 floors down and peeks out. Tommy meets the man's eyes and gives a single nod. The door closes again. He drives the car to a garage behind a fishmonger's, parks it where instructed, and walks home in the rain. By foot. 2 miles. He doesn't sleep that night. Not from guilt. From awareness. From adrenaline that hums in his fingertips for hours afterward. Long after he's washed the blood from under his nails with a toothbrush. Many people still think hitmen are either lunatics or soldiers. But Tommy, he's neither. He's methodical, thoughtful, clinical. A man who measures before he breaks. The next morning, there's a folded note in his milk crate. Handled well? Quiet? We'll remember this. No money this time. Just approval. And somehow that matters more. Over the next few weeks, Tommy returns to his rounds. The usual faces, the usual smiles. Mrs. Morrison gives him her old wireless because she says she never listens to it anymore. Mr. Wallace, the newsagent, slips him a copy of the Evening Times each day, free of charge, for keeping the neighborhood decent. They have no idea. But then something does start to change. Tommy begins to feel the weight, not of guilt, but of pattern, of repetition. Every bottle he sets down feels like it might be part of something bigger. Every folded note, every cracked bone, every shadowed glance from someone on a doorstep, it's all part of the rhythm now. And rhythms are dangerous. They make you predictable, and predictable men die first. He starts walking different routes, mixing them up, changing when he makes drops. At first it's paranoia, then it becomes habit, then it becomes a game. That's when he meets Mr. Billsland. It's a Tuesday morning. Fog heavy, cart lighter than usual. Tommy's finishing a delivery near St. Rollox when a man steps out from a parked Jaguar. He's old, trim, dressed like a Sunday sermon, gray suit, black gloves, no coat despite the chill. "You're Tommy Callahan," the man says. Tommy doesn't nod, doesn't confirm, just waits. The man smiles. "Good. You're already better than half the lads I've interviewed." Tommy says nothing. "My name's Billsland. We'll be speaking again." And just like that, the man gets back into the car and disappears into the fog. Gino doesn't answer his calls that week, so what do you think? When a man like Billsland calls you by name, without introduction, does that mean you've arrived? Or that your clock has started ticking? Either way, Tommy starts carrying a knife in his boot. Just in case. He never uses it. Yet. The second time Mr. Billsland appears, he's already inside Tommy's flat. It's a Thursday. Raining, of course. Tommy comes home from his shift with damp sleeves and an old roll from the bakery tucked in his coat pocket. He unlocks the door, expecting the usual creak of quiet. Instead, he steps inside and finds the silhouette of a man sitting calmly at his table, flipping through Tommy's own notebook. The one with names and scratched codes, kept in the hollowed-out cookbook under the stove. Tommy doesn't reach for a weapon. He doesn't speak. He just closes the door behind him and waits. Mr. Billsland doesn't look up. "I thought about leaving this where it was," he says, turning a page like he's reading a dinner recipe. "But I wanted to see your face when you realized I knew it existed." He finally lifts his eyes, cold, gray. The kind of eyes that seem to subtract something from you. You're not stupid, Tommy. But you are young. That's dangerous. Tommy doesn't flinch. He's been expecting something like this for weeks. Billsland slides the book back into the hollowed-out cookbook and closes it with a faint thump. "You're organized. Careful. You don't ask stupid questions. That's rare." He gestures to the seat across from him. Tommy stays standing. "You've done small jobs. Quiet ones. Things that wouldn't make the evening news, but ripple through the city all the same. People notice that. People like me." Tommy's expression doesn't change, but his mind clicks like a watch mechanism. This isn't an invitation. It's an evaluation. "You're not a thug," Billsland continues. "You're not a cowboy. You understand structure. That's why I'm here. A beat. I'm offering you the next step." Billsland lights a cigarette, not asking if it's okay. The smoke curls into the air like punctuation marks in a sentence Tommy can't read yet. "Up until now," Billsland says, "you've been useful, but not irreplaceable. I'm offering you something more permanent, something where you matter, but it means more responsibility and less freedom." Tommy finally speaks. "What does that mean?" Billsland smiles. "It means you won't just deliver things. You'll make sure they arrive, how we want them to arrive. It means you'll be part of a team, though not the kind that shares beers and birthdays. It means you'll stop being a tool and start being a hand. He snubs the cigarette into the bottom of an old teacup. It means when we say do it, you won't wait for the why. The silence stretches between them like piano wire. Tommy doesn't answer. He doesn't have to. Bill's land stands. We'll be in touch. And just like that, he's gone. No business card, no envelope, just the lingering smell of tobacco and something more acidic. Control. Tommy doesn't move for a while. He just stares at the hollowed-out cookbook. He knew someone might find it. That was part of the test. A real professional has layers, even in failure. But Bill's land finding it, reading it, quoting from it, that was something else. That night, Tommy burns the book. Not just the one Billsland touched, but every note, every scratched code, every spare copy he'd buried in a biscuit tin under the floorboards. He starts over, all of it, in his head. Because once someone shows you how visible you really are, you learn to vanish better. The next morning, his route feels heavier. Not the bottles, the air, the glances from windows, the gaps in the curtains. He starts to wonder who else has been watching him all these years, silently weighing his usefulness. He delivers a bottle to the corner flat of a man who once screamed at him for leaving it too close to the step. The man's face today is pale. His hands tremble as he takes the bottle. Tommy notices a second man in the room behind him, reading a newspaper upside down. He doesn't say a word. He keeps moving. From then on, the bottles change. Not always physically, but symbolically. Some hold milk, others hold expectation. And some days, there's no milk at all. Just a hollow glass shell and something hidden inside. One bottle contains a lock of hair. Another, a dried flower dipped in wax. One holds a thumbnail-sized Polaroid of a man Tommy's seen at the depot, laughing over tea. These aren't messages. They're tests, warnings, maybe puzzles. And Tommy never asks. He just delivers. People start referring to him with a new tone. Not the Milkman, but that Milkman. Like he's become an institution or an omen. Children don't wave anymore. Their parents pull them inside. He doesn't mind. One evening, he returns home to find a small crate outside his door. No note. Just a single bottle inside. The cap painted matte black. He lifts it. It's heavier than usual. Inside, he finds a gun. Not wrapped, not hidden, just waiting. And on the cap, scratched in crude lines, soon. Many people still think becoming a hitman is a matter of cruelty, of being born wrong or raised broken. But often, it's much simpler. It's being noticed by the right person at the wrong time. So what do you think? If a man leaves a gun on your doorstep and no one in your building saw a thing, is it a gift or a command? Tommy puts the bottle on his shelf, doesn't touch the weapon. But every morning he looks at it before he leaves, just to remember what route he's really on. It's a Monday when Tommy learns how to drown a man without water. Not metaphorically, not in one of those he was overwhelmed by guilt ways. No. He learns how to quite literally make someone feel like they're drowning in a public bathhouse, surrounded by the harmless slap of water against tile and the echo of old men arguing over football scores. The place is called Calder Street Baths, down in Govan Hill. A grand old building with iron scrollwork and stained glass windows that make it look like it should house prayers, not steam. Tommy's never liked it. Something about the smell, chlorine and mildew, soaked deep into the bricks. It reminds him of illness, of basements, of schoolboys with bloody noses pretending they slipped. The appointment isn't formal. No one sends a letter. But he knows when to show up. It's all about routine. The man waiting inside is tall, thick around the middle, wrapped in a towel that looks stolen from a nicer hotel. No one uses names. He just nods when Tommy appears. Together, they walk to the private changing rooms at the back. Room 7, the one with the warped bench and the rusted hook that always falls off if you bump it. Inside, it's quiet, dim. The man reaches under the bench and pulls out a canvas sack. Inside, rope, a flask of tea, and a laminated photograph of a man in his 50s with an impressive mustache and a mole near his left temple. "This one talks too much," the man says, "but he also listens. Makes him dangerous." Tommy says nothing, just waits. "You're going to help him. Forget how to breathe." The phrase makes Tommy pause for a moment. Not out of fear, out of curiosity. Forget how to breathe. It's such an oddly poetic way of saying we're going to simulate death until he gets the point. The man smiles, sensing Tommy's hesitation. It's just a lesson, not the whole sermon. So Tommy follows, down to the training pool, empty today, drained for cleaning, the perfect setting. The target is already there, slumped on a plastic chair, blindfolded, hands zip-tied, mouth gagged. He's shivering in a way that doesn't come from cold. Someone's already softened him up. Tommy doesn't touch him at first, just walks slow circles, letting the wet tile amplify his steps. The man flinches at every echo. Then Tommy kneels. He places a towel over the man's face, gently, like he's helping him relax. Then comes the jug, water, cold. He pours. Not much, just enough to soak, to trigger panic, to let the body remember that air is earned, not owed. The man jerks. His feet kick. A soft gag muffles the sound. Tommy waits 10 seconds, then stops. He repeats this 3 more times. By the end, the man is sobbing, wordless, shaking in that deep, bone-level way. His shoulders twitch. His stomach spasms like he's trying to retch out the fear itself. Tommy removes the towel, wipes the man's face. It's not kindness, it's punctuation. "He'll remember," says the towel guy. Tommy doesn't doubt it. They leave through the side door, the one that leads into a service corridor smelling of boiled paint. No words exchanged. The lesson has been taught. The sermon delivered. Tommy doesn't return home right away. He walks. The air outside is sharper than it should be. His hands are steady, but his mind flickers. He's not thinking about the man. He's thinking about the process, the method, about how terror, applied with precision, becomes a tool more effective than bullets. There's something darkly elegant about it. That evening, he places a bottle on a doorstep, 2 streets from his usual round. The cap has a blue thumbprint on it, an old symbol used in the war for identifying temporary targets. It's subtle, but it means, watch this one. He walks away before the door opens. Many people still think violence is loud, but real violence, the kind that sticks, is silent. It creeps. It whispers. It introduces itself politely before slipping the air out of your lungs. The next morning, Tommy finds a small package behind his cart when he begins his route. It's neatly wrapped in brown paper, tied with twine. No note. Inside, a small bar of soap. Lavender. An inside joke from the man with the towel, perhaps. He smiles briefly, then keeps moving. The city doesn't change. But Tommy does, incrementally. You wouldn't notice from the outside. Still the same coat, same cart, same slouch to his stride. But inside, the corners are sharpening. He doesn't dream much anymore. When he does, it's usually about birds. Crows, of course. Watching him from high places, silent, expectant. Sometimes they blink in rhythm, as if waiting for instructions. So what do you think? If a man can make someone forget how to breathe without leaving a mark, does that make him cruel or just clever? Tommy no longer wonders. He knows what he is. The milkman, the messenger, the hand that never shakes. Tommy Callahan learns that some jobs require fists, others require silence. But now and then, just now and then, a job requires theatrics. It starts with a pub, doesn't it always? This one's on the south side, tucked into a sloping block of soot-stained flats. A place where the wallpaper peels like sunburn and the regulars all sound like they've been gargling gravel. The Black Fox. A place where glass clinks just a second too late. And everyone looks at the door when it opens. They call it the bottle job. Not because it's subtle. It's not. It's a performance. A demonstration. A deliberate public display meant to send a message without involving a bullet or a body bag. Billsland himself signs off on this one. You'll walk in, you'll cause a mess, and you'll walk out. That's it, Gino explains, dropping a folded napkin on Tommy's table like it's sacred scripture. Think of it as promotional material. Tommy reads the napkin. Just a name and a single underlined word. Interrupt. That's it. The target is a man named Danny 2 Pints McGuire. Not particularly dangerous, but loud. He's been running his mouth at the wrong time, in the wrong places, bragging that the milkman's just a glorified errand boy, that the so-called quiet ones are only quiet because they don't have the spine to bark. So Billsland wants a bark. Tommy doesn't ask why a bar fight is the answer. He just tightens his coat, loops a cloth-wrapped bottle into the inner lining, and walks. The Black Fox is halfway full when he enters. Low light, stale air. The jukebox hums with something sad and old. Laughter dies the second the door swings open. Tommy doesn't announce himself, just moves toward the bar, trailing the scent of rain and resolve. Danny spots him, smirks. Well, look who's come out from behind the crate, he says, raising his glass. You lose a cow, Milkman? Tommy says nothing. He steps forward. Danny shifts, half rising, but Tommy's already moving. The bottle comes from inside his coat. Not full of milk. It's filled with colored water and broken plaster. Enough weight to land hard. Not enough to kill. He slams it into the edge of the bar. Glass explodes like it's been waiting all day to shatter. People shout, chairs scrape. Tommy grabs Danny by the collar and drives his face down onto the bar. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. Each strike accompanied by a precise, brutal crack of nose cartilage and ego. Someone screams, someone else drops a pint. Tommy lets Danny drop. The man slumps to the floor, groaning, blood mixing with spilt beer. His friends, if they're even that, don't move. They know better. Tommy straightens his coat, sets the cracked bottleneck gently on the bar like it's a tip, and walks out. No one stops him. That's the point. The next morning, Danny McGuire checks into the Glasgow Royal Infirmary with a broken nose, a fractured eye socket, and a silence he's never known before. And the story? It spreads. The milkman doesn't just deliver anymore. He collects. Whispers follow Tommy on his rounds now, like cigarette smoke in a pub. He becomes something half myth, half man. Kids dare each other to say his name out loud. Grown men glance twice before opening their doors. And Tommy? He doesn't lean into it, doesn't strut. That's not his way. He just keeps showing up. Rain, shine, blood on the boots. It doesn't matter. Many people still think dominance in the underworld is about territory. But real power? It's about presence. A kind that walks into a room and rearranges it without saying a word. One night, Gino buys him a pint. Quietly, in a booth near the window, where the glass is so fogged up it feels like the world's turned its back. You know, Gino says, you're doing better than half the idiots Billsland's tried to groom. Tommy raises an eyebrow. Groom? Train, whatever. Most lads blow it. Too greedy. Too noisy. Too drunk on the myth. But you? Gino points with his cigarette. You're scary in a way no one can explain. That's rare. Tommy doesn't respond, just sips. But something in him shifts, because he feels it too. Not pride, not ego, just clarity. He's not the same boy who fed birds and stared at shadows. He's not even the same milkman who delivered folded notes under bottle caps. He's something else now. The next morning, there's a letter under his door. No envelope, just a name, an address, and one line. You choose the method. That's new. Until now, everything has been told, structured, clean. But this is autonomy, trust, or maybe a test. So what do you think? If a man like Tommy Callahan is given a free hand, how far does he reach? He studies the name, recognizes it, and he smiles, just slightly, a rare wolfish flicker. The milk's late that morning, but the message, right on time. At 6:01 a.m., Tommy Callahan drops off a pint of milk on McIntyre Street with the usual soft clink against brick. By 9:13 a.m., he has a gun in his pocket and a hammer in his coat lining. This is what double life looks like. Smooth transitions. No dramatic costume changes. Just a man who moves from doorsteps to danger without so much as blinking. His latest assignment, his choice of method, remember, is different. There's no urgency, no threat of war between gangs, no looming payback. This is about discipline. The man in question, Alistair Mullen, is mid-level, smart, educated, ran numbers for a bookmaker in Partick, then graduated to laundering money through car dealerships and funeral homes. Those classic Glasgow touch points. He's good with people. Too good. Word is he's been bragging. Again. Whispering names he shouldn't even know. Suggesting he's untouchable. No one's untouchable. That's the lesson. Tommy studies Mullen for a few days. He doesn't trail him. Too obvious. Instead, he delivers milk to Mullen's neighbor. Waits on a rooftop. Watches patterns. Mullen leaves for the office at 9:45 sharp. Comes home at 6. Eats takeaway twice a week. Walks his dog, an anxious terrier named Gracie, on Sunday afternoons in Queen's Park. On Thursday, Tommy makes his move. He waits in the stairwell of Mullen's building, behind a locked maintenance door. It's been broken for years, wedged open with an old brick. He crouches in the dark, quiet as a kettle before it sings. Mullen appears on schedule, umbrella dripping, briefcase swinging. Tommy moves fast, one arm around the neck, the other driving Mullen backward into the wall. Not enough to kill, but enough to silence. The gun stays in his pocket. He doesn't need it. Instead, he uses the hammer, just once, to the right knee. The crack echoes like a snapped branch. Mullen goes down in a strangled yelp, face twisted in a mixture of pain and confusion. Tommy leans in close, not to threaten, not to shout, just to whisper, "You said the milkman was a myth." Then he walks away. No signature, no calling card, just a man in a white coat, gone before the hallway stops ringing. Mullen's injury makes the rounds quickly. A random attack, according to the papers. No suspects. Police presence increases for a week. Tommy watches from a distance, unseen as always. The usual chatter builds. Was it the milkman? It had to be. No one else works like that. And yet, Tommy remains exactly where he's always been. On the street, in plain sight, carrying bottles and invoices and secrets. It's a strange kind of fame. Anonymity with an edge. The same week, he returns to his route. Mrs. Lecky leaves him a box of shortbread. "For your kindness," she writes in a note, unaware that her postcode is 3 doors down from a man who now limps permanently. He eats one, but only one. Tommy doesn't indulge much. Indulgence gets you soft, and softness gets you killed. On Friday, Gino visits. No fanfare. Just shows up on Tommy's stoop, leaning against the rail with a grin like a wolf in a borrowed suit. "Heard your handiwork made quite the splash." he says, eyes bright. Billsland's pleased. Tommy raises an eyebrow. Didn't know we were doing things for applause. Gino laughs. We're not, but recognition buys room. And you've just earned some. He flicks a card toward Tommy. Not a business card, a membership. The kind that doesn't have a name, just an address and a time. Be there Sunday. Bring nothing but your left hand. Tommy doesn't ask. The building at the address is plain. 3 stories. No signage. Looks like it sells radiator covers or cracked tea kettles. But inside, marble floors, velvet curtains, a chandelier that probably cost more than Tommy's entire year of wages. A man greets him in the foyer, says nothing, just nods toward a room down the hall. Inside, 7 chairs, all full, all men in coats, serious, quiet. One nods as Tommy enters. No names, no drinks, no small talk. Then Billsland enters, and the room stills. He stands at the head of the circle like a priest, hands folded. Gentlemen, he says, the city has grown loud. We need men who move softly. Tommy listens. It's not a sermon. It's a structure. Rules, expectations. What will be tolerated and what will not. Who speaks to whom? Who collects from whom? What parts of the city are being watched? By police, by enemies, by fools who haven't realized Glasgow runs on silence. And then Billsland turns to Tommy. This one, he says, delivers more than bottles. He delivers reminders. It's not praise. It's permission. The meeting ends with nothing but nods. No applause. No contracts. Just shared glances and unspoken calculations. Outside, Tommy lights a cigarette. He doesn't smoke, but today he does. Because something has shifted. He's not a tool anymore. He's a message. So what do you think? When a man becomes his own calling card, when his name alone keeps mouths shut and doors locked, does he still need a weapon? Tommy tucks the hammer back into his drawer. He might not need it again, but it's always clean. On Sunday mornings, Joe's Diner opens at exactly 7 a.m., no matter the weather, no matter the war. It's not fancy, just 5 booths, 2 windows, and a chipped counter with 3 stools that wobble if you breathe too hard. But the coffee is hot, the eggs are passable, and the owner, Big Joe himself, believes in discretion like it's a religion. Tommy Callahan starts going every other Sunday. Same time, same booth. 1 sugar, no cream. He never speaks first. But one Sunday, it's different. There's a man in his booth, not sitting, just waiting, standing, arms folded, a half smile that's not really a smile, the kind of grin someone wears before giving you bad news wrapped in compliments. Tommy doesn't sit. He just raises an eyebrow. The man gestures toward the booth. May I? Tommy doesn't respond, but he slides in first. The man sits across from him, orders tea without looking at the menu. You've been busy, he says, unwrapping a sugar cube like it's a grenade. Tommy says nothing. The man's name is never offered, but it doesn't matter. He's a scout, one of Billsland's more public shadows. The kind that shows up not to intimidate, but to remind. There's a job, the man says, still not touching his tea. Unusual one, less physical. Tommy leans back. He's a talker. Harmless in the body, dangerous in the mouth, likes to hold court at the crank, tell stories he shouldn't know. Real ones mixed with nonsense. The problem is, the truth part is growing. Tommy waits. We want him quiet, not dead, not limping, not scared even. Tommy raises an eyebrow. We want him ashamed. That's new. The man finishes unwrapping his sugar, then leaves it on the napkin. Doesn't stir. Doesn't stay. He stands. There's a note in your coat pocket. Just a name. And then he's gone. Tommy checks the pocket as soon as he leaves the diner. The name, Seamus Duff. The address, a tower block in Kinning Park. And beneath the name, just 4 words. Make him feel small. Tommy folds the paper and walks home. It's not easy, this job. Not in the usual way. Hammers and caps and whispers are clean compared to this. This will require thought, performance, humiliation. He does research, watches Seamus from afar, learns the routine. The man walks with bravado, talks like he's been in the trenches with the city's hardest men. But Tommy knows, truly hard men never tell stories about themselves. They let others do it. Seamus lives alone. No car. One ex-wife, 2 daughters in England. No contact. He drinks at the Crank every Wednesday and Friday, holding court over 3 pints and a packet of crisps. Tommy chooses Wednesday. He waits until Seamus is mid-sentence. Something about back in the day and a lad who tried to muscle in near Pollock. Then Tommy walks in, quiet, unannounced. He sits 2 tables away, orders tea. Then he pulls something from his coat. A small envelope, yellowed, slightly creased. He sets it gently on Seamus's table. Inside, Seamus finds a photograph, a real one, of him. Young, drunk, trousers half down in a back alley behind a bingo hall. A photo that only someone from long ago would know existed. Seamus goes pale. Tommy doesn't speak, just sips his tea. Then he sets down a second envelope. This one contains a letter, typed neatly. The stories you tell are dangerous. The ones we could tell about you are worse. Seamus doesn't finish his pint. He stumbles out without a word. The next Friday, he's not at the pub. The next week, people notice he's keeping to himself lately. Mission accomplished. Tommy doesn't feel pride, not exactly, but there is satisfaction in subtlety. In showing that control doesn't always look like broken bones. It can look like a man too embarrassed to leave his flat. Many people still think gangsters only know brute force. But in truth, it's emotional fluency that's most useful. Understanding what keeps a man awake, what shrinks him from the inside. So what do you think? If you had to silence someone forever, would you rather use a bullet or a memory? Tommy returns to Joe's diner a week later. Big Joe nods as he serves the usual. 1 sugar, no cream. And this time, no one is waiting at his booth. The rain hits Glasgow like it's angry this morning, slapping rooftops and swirling in alleyways with a kind of vengeance that feels personal. Tommy's boots squelch with every step, the weight of his cart doubled by wet crates, and a new job that leaves a bitter aftertaste in his mouth. The Burnside incident, they'll call it later, though no one who mentions it out loud ever says his name. The job is supposed to be routine, drop off, observe, leave. That's the rhythm Tommy likes. Predictable, clean, invisible. But today, it doesn't go that way. The message had come through an unusual source. Hand-delivered, which almost never happens anymore. A young girl, couldn't be older than 13, shows up at his doorstep in a yellow coat 3 sizes too big. Says only, he says, bring the small bottle, the one with the blue wax. Then she disappears down the stairwell like smoke. Inside the bottle, a folded paper with a postcode, a building number, and a time, 14:30. That's it. No name, no instructions. Tommy's instinct twitches. That's never good. But he's committed now. The clock is ticking. The address leads him to Burnside, a sleepy row of terraced flats that always look like they're waiting to be condemned. Laundry hangs heavy on rusted lines. A dog barks from somewhere unseen. The street is so quiet, you'd think the city had forgotten it. He arrives early, watches from across the road. 2 men, 1 car, a 3rd man pacing. No obvious weapons, all wearing coats that don't fit quite right. Outsiders, not local lads. Something is off. At 14:30, Tommy walks in. He carries a crate with 2 bottles, both filled with diluted ink, just for weight. The kind of load that looks genuine, but spills nothing if tipped. He doesn't reach for a weapon. He doesn't need to, yet. The third man, the one pacing, steps forward. He's nervous, fidgety, maybe new. "You got it?" he says, voice too loud for the street. Tommy nods, lifts the bottle with the blue wax, sets it down on the wall between them like a peace offering. The man grabs it too fast, opens it, sees the paper. Then everything collapses. From the corner of his eye, Tommy sees the first man draw something. Gun. Maybe knife. Doesn't matter. Reflex kicks in. Tommy drops the crate, kicks it forward. Glass explodes across the sidewalk. He moves. He slams the pacing man into the wall. Once, twice, until he slumps. Then he turns to the next one, only to find the man already bleeding from the forehead, twitching on the ground. The last man, the quiet one, is gone, just vanished. Tommy stands in the rain, heart drumming so loud it sounds like war in his ears. No sirens, no footsteps. He wipes his hands on his coat and walks away, back down the street, past the swinging laundry, past the windows where no one dares look out. He leaves the broken crate behind. By dusk, the story's already begun its mutations. One man taken to hospital with head trauma. No arrests, local youth possibly involved. Tommy hears it at the depot. One of the younger lads tells the story like it's gossip. Tommy just nods along. Later, Gino appears. They meet near a petrol station with broken signage, standing by the rusted bins like it's a sacred spot. "Oh, wasn't meant to go that way," Gino mutters. "I noticed," Tommy replies deadpan. Gino's face is pale. "They were testing someone. Might have been you." Tommy shrugs. Then they failed. He walks off before Gino can say anything else. That night, he doesn't sleep. Not from guilt. Not from adrenaline. From calculation. He replays the steps, the pacing, the glance, the moment the crate dropped and everything turned from message to mayhem. There was no mistake, not on his end. The mistake was whoever thought Tommy wouldn't see it coming. He writes nothing down, but in his mind, a name gets scratched off the list of trusted sources. Whoever gave that bottle to the girl, burned. The next day, Tommy adjusts his route slightly. Leaves early. Skips 2 stops. No explanation. But at one house he adds something new. A bottle. Capless. Empty. Left upside down on a brick post. It means never again. Many people still think violence is the worst thing a man like Tommy can offer. But that's not true. It's denial. When Tommy stops delivering to you, when your milk doesn't show, when your name disappears from the quiet web he manages, that's when you know you're done. You're nobody again. So what do you think? Is a man more dangerous when he fights back or when he stops delivering altogether? By week's end, someone replaces the girl. Another errand runner. They try again. This time with apologies folded neatly into a new envelope. A fresh bottle. A cleaner address. Tommy accepts the bottle. But the list? That name stays scratched. Tommy doesn't go to church. He hasn't since he was 9 years old, and Father McDade smacked his knuckles with a ruler for asking why Jesus didn't just run. That was enough theology for a lifetime. But today, for the first time in over a decade, Tommy walks into a confessional. Not because he's seeking redemption. He just wants to see what happens when a priest can't answer. The church is in Dennistown. Red brick, stooped shoulders, and more pigeons on the roof than parishioners in the pews. Inside, it smells like candle wax and cold stone. The kind of scent that makes your bones remember every bad decision you've ever made. He waits for the booth to free up. An old woman exits with eyes puffy from tears. She crosses herself and doesn't look at him. Tommy enters, sits, waits. The priest speaks first. "Bless me, my son, for you have come seeking forgiveness." Tommy says nothing. "Are you ready to confess?" Still silence. And then, after a long pause, "What happens?" Tommy says, his voice low, casual, almost curious. "If the sin is necessary." There's a cough on the other side of the screen. "Well," the priest begins, cautious. We are all called to walk a righteous path, even when tempted. Tempted implies choice. Tommy replies. What if it was the only road open? The priest shifts. My son, there is always another road. Tommy leans back in the creaky wooden seat. No, he says, not always. He pauses. I hit a man last week. He won't walk the same again. But he'd been hurting women for years. His niece, his sister-in-law. No one ever stopped him. Police shrugged. His own mother said he was just full of the drink. So I stopped him. The priest is very quiet now. Was that a sin? The question hangs like smoke in the air between them. Eventually the priest replies, his voice soft. It's not my place to judge what your heart tells you is just. That's not what I asked, Tommy says, voice still even. I asked if it was a sin. The priest hesitates. Then, yes, Tommy nods, stands. Then I'll keep sinning. He leaves the booth. No penance. No Our Fathers. The world outside is just as gray as it was when he walked in. Later that evening, Gino finds him at their usual corner. You all right? He asks. Tommy lights a cigarette. Went to confession? Gino laughs. Did it catch fire? Tommy doesn't smile. I asked the priest what happens if the sin is necessary. Gino's grin fades. What did he say? That it still counts. They sit in silence for a while, letting the city hum around them. Gino finally says, You know, we keep talking like this. We'll end up philosophers. Not enough books, Tommy mutters. But it's true. He's been thinking more lately. Not just about jobs, or routes, or timing, but about what it means to be the man they call when silence must be enforced. What it means to be the final stop on someone's mistake. He never kills. That's always been the line. But lately, that line feels thinner, like chalk washed out by rain. Many people still think the line between good and evil is wide, clear, painted in bold black ink across the choices of a man's life. But Tommy's learned something different. It's not a line, it's a fog. So what do you think? If a man sins to stop something worse, is he still damned? Tommy doesn't ask for forgiveness. He just delivers. That week, a bakery he visits every Thursday has a new sign in the window. Closed for renovations. But Tommy knows that's not true. The owner's son got in over his head, ran his mouth about deliveries he was never meant to know about. One of Billsland's men stepped in. Subtle. Efficient. Tommy didn't do it, but he didn't stop it either. He adjusts his route, makes no mention of the bakery, crosses it off with the same ink he uses for everything else. Permanent, silent, done. At night, he dreams again. Not about birds. This time, it's milk bottles, hundreds of them, all floating in a dark river, clinking gently like bells. Inside each one is a tiny folded paper. He can't read the words. He wakes up with a start, the hum of the city beyond his window pressing in like a sermon he didn't ask to hear. He lights a match, stares into the flame. Then he does what he always does. He puts on his coat and starts walking. If you ask around Springburn about Tommy Callahan, most people will shrug. Quiet lad, they'll say. Delivers milk, never causes trouble. But the ones who know, the ones who really know, have a different phrase. He delivers certainty. And in this world, that's worth more than money. This week, certainty comes in the form of a hit that never quite happens. It starts in the usual way. An envelope tucked behind a loose brick in the back wall of the bakery on Balgray Hill Road. It's damp from the rain, but the ink is intact. Inside is a name, an address, and the word remove. No method, no schedule, just remove. The target is a man named Declan Barr, former postman, now works collections for a bookie who's been dipping into London money. Word is, Declan's been offering up names in exchange for a shortcut out of Glasgow. Tommy doesn't recognize the name. That's rare. Normally, he's got at least a face to go with it. But this one's new. Quiet. Unremarkable. A ghost. Just like Tommy used to be. That makes things complicated. He doesn't act right away. Instead, he watches. Studies Declan from a distance. Notes the habits, the pattern. Every morning at 6:15 a.m., Declan walks his mother to Mass. Every evening at 8:30 p.m., he buys the same fish supper from McGarren's Chippy. On Thursdays, he feeds stray cats in the alley behind his flat. There's no flash, no sign of corruption. Just a man with a deep frown and a limp he doesn't try to hide. So Tommy digs deeper. He asks nothing, just listens. What he hears doesn't match the envelope. Declan hasn't flipped. He's been framed. Someone higher up wants to clean house, tie up loose ends. And Declan's only mistake was knowing the wrong handshake at the wrong poker table. The order to remove isn't about justice. It's about convenience. Tommy makes a decision. He won't do it. That's dangerous. But he knows how to move without leaving prints. Instead of Declan, Tommy pays a visit to the man who wrote the order, Fraser Connell. Mid-tier, thinks he's upper crust, wears imported coats, and calls himself connected. Tommy finds him alone, drinking gin in a private booth at the back of a lounge with velvet chairs and laughable security. He slides into the seat across from him. Fraser looks up, startled. "Callahan, what?" Tommy sets down a bottle. It's not milk. Inside the bottle is a single slip of paper sealed in wax. Fraser frowns, breaks the seal. The note says, "This name stays, the next one's yours." No signature, no explanation. Fraser tries to laugh it off. "You think you can—" Tommy doesn't flinch. Just looks at him. Long enough. Cold enough. Fraser stops smiling, and that's it. Declan's name never comes up again. The order is quietly withdrawn. No questions asked. Tommy delivers milk to Declan Street the next morning, same as always. And this time, he leaves 2 bottles on Declan's step. The second is empty. A sign. Someone is watching out for him. Declan never knows who. He never asks. But he stops walking his mother to Mass, starts using the side door, changes his route, starts watching shadows. Tommy sees it all and nods, because that's the point. Sometimes protection doesn't look like a bodyguard. Sometimes it's just an empty bottle. Many people still think being a hitman is about how many people you put in the ground. But in truth, it's about who you keep standing. So what do you think? Is a man still a killer if he saves someone once in a while? Tommy doesn't care what you call him. He just keeps walking. One street over, a new girl waves at him. Maybe 7 years old. Freckles, missing tooth. "Mr. Milkman," she shouts, beaming. "You forgot our house." He hadn't. He'd been watching, making sure no one else had. He lifts a bottle from the cart and sets it gently on her step. "On time," he says, and keeps moving. Mrs. McGinty lives alone in a ground-floor flat just off Kepich Road. The curtains are always drawn halfway. The wallpaper peels in quiet corners, and the living room smells of talcum powder and tea biscuits. She hasn't left the house in 6 years, not since her knees gave out and her son moved to Aberdeen and forgot to visit. But Mrs. McGinty is far from helpless. She has pigeons every morning, like clockwork. She opens her window just wide enough to toss out a scoop of seed. The birds arrive in a gray cloud of cooing and flapping. So many it looks like the sky dropped its marbles. They strut along her sill, pecking at crumbs. And in return, she watches, observes, notices. It's what keeps her sharp. That, and the tea she brews with exactly 1.5 spoonfuls of sugar. Never more, never less. Tommy delivers her milk twice a week, 1 pint each time, always left on the stoop precisely at 6:45 a.m. But Mrs. McGinty doesn't just drink the milk. She reads it, not the label, the cap, because she, like Tommy, speaks in symbols. It started with a chipped lid, by accident. She asked him, when he lingered once longer than usual, "Is that a warning?" Tommy had blinked, then nodded once. After that, it became regular. 3 dots on the wax? Don't trust your neighbor. A bent bottleneck? Someone's watching. No bottle at all? Go quiet for a while. And in return, she gives him information. Not in words, in birds. Tommy notices it first during the winter. There's a pigeon with 1 red band and 1 blue. When it shows up on the wires above Doyle Street, he follows. That day, he finds a man staking out a betting shop, someone who doesn't belong. Leather shoes too clean, coat that doesn't sag the way locals wear it. Tommy makes a note. Later, Mrs. McGinty leaves him a jam jar filled with buttons. 10 buttons, Tommy understands. 10 watchers in the neighborhood, 2 teams, 1 mission. He changes 3 of his routes, avoids the depot for a week. The pressure dissolves. Mrs. McGinty doesn't ask for thanks, just extra seed. But there's more. Tommy begins to realize her birds are trained. Not fully, not like a magician's doves, but well enough. They recognize paths, movements. Some even follow him. One, a gray speckled one with a bent claw, starts appearing at job sites before he does. It's unsettling, but also comforting, because now he's being watched by someone who wants him alive. One day he asks her, "Why help me?" She looks up from her knitting, eyes sharp behind thick glasses. "Because you protect this street. Quietly. You think I don't see the men who stop coming around after they speak to you?" Tommy says nothing. "You keep the noise away and I like quiet. That's all." Later that week, a job comes in. Simple mark, loud mouth, new to the city. Someone from Manchester trying to claim turf that isn't his. Bill's land wants it clean. Public, but not deadly. Tommy delivers a bottle to the man's hotel. The cap is blue, the wax is cracked. Inside is a pigeon feather. No note. That night, the man books a train back south. He doesn't say why. Many people still think old women are harmless. And birds are just birds. But some of the most effective systems of control run on breadcrumbs and habit. So what do you think? If a man can keep a city safer because an 80-year-old with pigeons trusts him, is that power or luck? Tommy doesn't need the answer. He just keeps delivering. On Sunday, he leaves 2 bottles at Mrs. McGinty's. One has milk. The other has a sliver of black wax folded into the shape of a crow. She'll understand. That night, as he lies in bed, he hears cooing outside his window. Not just one bird, a whole flock. He sleeps better than he has in weeks. There's something about rain at night that makes the city whisper louder. Glasgow doesn't sleep easy in the wet season. Windows stay half lit. Footsteps linger too long on corners, and the streets seem to lean in, listening, as if they've got secrets to collect. Tommy Callahan feels it in his bones. This night's heavy, not with dread, with information. He's heard the rumors all day. Murmurs drifting from the depot, whispers at the corner shop. Even the butcher, who never talks more than a grunt, muttered something under his breath while weighing pork belly. Someone's flipped. The phrase travels like smoke. No source. No confirmation. Just enough substance to make people turn their collars up and lock their doors a little earlier. Tommy walks his evening route slowly. It's not about milk tonight. It's about observation. He loops through Sight Hill, where the tower blocks loom like watchmen, past the old rail yard, where no one works anymore, but where people still meet. Down the alleys behind the snooker hall, past the flats where curtains twitch and radios hum low. Everything feels off. He stops by Joe's diner, orders tea, 1 sugar, no cream. Joe doesn't speak, just sets the cup down gently, eyes flicking to the door. There's someone new in the booth near the back. Not a regular, suit too sharp, smile too easy. Tommy clocks him immediately. Out of town. Maybe London. Maybe Belfast. Doesn't matter. What matters is he doesn't belong. Tommy finishes his tea in 3 sips, stands, drops a tenner on the counter, even though Joe never charges him. Outside, the rain thickens. He ducks into the alley behind the diner, waits under the rusted fire escape, watching. And sure enough, the man exits minutes later, not hurried, just casual. A practiced casual. Tommy follows, down Kepich Street, past shuttered shops, into a back garden that hasn't seen a lawnmower since Thatcher was in power. The man stops, lights a cigarette, says without turning, "Are you following me, Or is this just a very loyal milk route? Tommy doesn't answer. The man finally turns, smirks. You're quieter than I expected. The story said you were a ghost, but I thought maybe that was just flair. Still silence. I'm not here for trouble, the man continues. Just information. We have mutual interests. And I hear someone on your end might be ready to talk. Tommy finally speaks. Name. The man shrugs. No names yet, but I've got ears, and your people should be worried. Tommy steps forward, just once. The man's smirk falters. No one flips without bleeding first, Tommy says, voice low, even. Then he turns and walks away. The message is clear. We're already listening. By the next morning, the city's buzzing. Someone has flipped. It's true. Not a big fish, but a link in the chain. A courier named Derek Skinny Lynch ran packages for Gino. Got picked up for something minor, but the timing was too perfect. No lawyer, no bail. And suddenly, he's not in custody anymore. Just gone. The street knows. People are nervous. Tommy receives a message. Not in paper, not in bottle caps, but in absence. A drop that should have happened doesn't. A payment that's usually left in a hollow brick is gone. He walks to Mrs. McGinty's. Her pigeons are still there, but fewer. One sits on the sill with a red string tied around its foot. He retrieves it, unwinds it. Inside, a matchbox. Within the matchbox, a single earring. It's a signal. Skinny's girlfriend is missing. Tommy moves fast. He loops through old addresses, old haunts. Finds the girl, Ava, hidden in the back room of a bakery that used to launder cash through fake wedding cakes. She's bruised, shaking, but alive. He doesn't ask what she knows. Doesn't have to. She looks up and whispers, They made him talk. I heard them. I think they used the dogs. That confirms it. Tommy delivers her to a safe flat under an assumed name. Leaves her with tea, blankets, and one firm instruction. Don't speak. Not to anyone. Not even to me, unless I ask first. That night the rain returns. Tommy walks to Gino's flat. No door knock, just a stone tossed at the window. When Gino appears, Tommy says, We have a rat. Gino nods. I know. And they know I know. That hangs between them. So what do we do? Gino asks. Tommy doesn't respond immediately. Then, we wait. They'll come to confirm the leak. We let them. Then we show them what silence really means. The next morning, Tommy returns to his route. Leaves a bottle on Skinny Lynch's old doorstep. Empty. No cap. Just a broken feather inside. Many people still think betrayal is a single act. A knife in the back. A signed statement. A whispered name in an interrogation room. But in truth, it's a pattern. And Tommy's very good at spotting patterns. So what do you think? If a man keeps the city safe by removing its rotting teeth before the infection spreads, do you call him a criminal? Tommy doesn't care. The rain hides his footprints, and his message, as always, is delivered. The Barrowland ballroom never sleeps. Not really. Even when it's empty, the walls remember the music. The sticky floors hum with ghost footsteps, and the faded neon sign above the door buzzes like it's whispering secrets it's not supposed to know. Tonight it's crowded. Tommy Callahan stands in the shadow of the old entrance, collar turned up, watching partygoers spill inside. Sequins, cheap cologne, nervous laughter. It's a Thursday night, but it might as well be a Saturday. Glasgow doesn't need a reason to dance. Just a place, and maybe a bit of forgetting. Inside, a band is tuning up. Brass, jazzy. Not Tommy's taste, but he's not here for music. He's here for a woman named Isla Devine. On paper, she's a waitress. Part-time singer. Pretty in a way that makes people underestimate her. In reality, she's the partner of a man who shouldn't be in Glasgow. And the only person left who might know why Skinny Lynch really talked before disappearing into thin air. Tommy doesn't want to hurt her, but he's not here to ask politely either. He pays his pound at the door, passes under the neon, and enters the hum of voices, laughter, and drumsticks counting down to something loud. The Barrowland is a strange place for an interrogation, but sometimes hiding in plain sight is the safest thing a person can do, or the stupidest. He spots Isla near the bar. Pink dress, hair curled just enough to look careless. She's sipping something red, eyes scanning the crowd like she knows someone's looking. Tommy doesn't rush. He orders water, sits at a corner table, waits, and sure enough, after 10 minutes, Isla walks over. "You're not dancing," she says, folding her arms. "I don't like the music," Tommy replies. She doesn't flinch. "Are you the one who left the bottle?" Straight to it. Tommy nods once. She sits. No fanfare, no fear. "I didn't tell them anything," she says quietly. "I just wanted them to let him go." "You led them to the drop spot." Her jaw tightens. "They said it was just for checking, that Skinny would be fine, that they just wanted to make sure the money wasn't dirty." Tommy says nothing. "I didn't know he'd talk. I didn't think he would. He swore he wouldn't, but they had photos." Tommy leans forward. "Photos of who?" She hesitates. "Then, me. And there it is." Skinny didn't flip because he was weak. He flipped because they had her. And Isla, whether she knew it or not, had been used like bait in a trap that worked better than anyone expected. "Where are the photos now?" Tommy asks. She stares down at her drink. "I don't know. They took them back." "Who's they?" She shakes her head. "They didn't say. But the man in charge? He's English. Talks like he's bored all the time. Tall. Scar above his left eye." Tommy files it away. "Then, they'll come back for you. Especially if they think you know more now." "I don't know anything else." "Doesn't matter." She nods. Slowly. The music swells. People cheer. "Can you protect me?" she asks. "No," Tommy says. "But I can make you invisible." He gives her a note with an address. "Safe flat. 3rd story. No questions asked." Then he stands. "You've got 5 minutes. Leave separately." She grabs her purse. At the exit, Tommy nods to the bouncer. The man nods back. That night, Tommy walks the long way home. His mind turns over the pieces. Isla, Skinny, the scarred Englishman. Someone's pressing on Glasgow's ribs, testing for soft spots. They're not locals, which means they don't know who they're nudging. And they don't know Tommy, yet. The next morning, he visits a pawn shop on High Street, buys a camera, one that works. No film, just the sound, the click. He mails it in a brown envelope to an address in Birmingham. No name, just a note. "Try to smile in the next photo. You'll want to look good." Many people still think surveillance is about wires and bugs and hidden lenses, but sometimes it's about reminding people they're already being watched. So what do you think? If a man can protect a woman's life by making the people who hurt her afraid to breathe near her again, does that make him a savior? Or just efficient? Tommy doesn't bother with titles. He just delivers. Mill Street is empty by midnight. Not in the literal sense. Cars still pass. Cats still knock over bins. But empty in that strange, haunted way certain streets feel after dark. The lamps flicker just a touch too long. The shadows stretch just a little too far. And the windows, well, they watch. Tommy doesn't like Mill Street. He never has. But tonight, he walks it anyway. Because ghosts don't only live in memory. Some of them rent flats. He's come here for one man. Bobby Reardon, a name that used to mean something. Back in the 50s, Bobby was a name people said like a secret handshake. He ran numbers, sure, but he also kept people clean. The kind of man who could disappear a charge, a body, or a priest's gambling debt. But now, Bobby's a ghost. Lives in a damp second-floor flat with a broken gas fire and a window that rattles even when the wind doesn't blow. He hasn't left in years. Doesn't need to, because people still come to him, Tommy included. He climbs the stairs, slow. They creak like they remember everyone who's ever walked them. He knocks twice, hard, soft. The door opens. Eventually, Bobby looks smaller than Tommy remembers. Thinner, grayer, like someone halfway between life and surrender. But his eyes, sharp as ever. "You," Bobby says. "Didn't expect you to knock." "I'm polite," Tommy replies. Bobby steps aside. "Rare disease." The flat is worse inside. Smells of old wood and older secrets. There are papers everywhere. Newspapers, betting slips, torn letters, matchbooks with names written inside. Tommy knows better than to ask. They sit. No tea, no offer, just chairs. "I heard you were asking about the Englishman," Bobby says. Tommy nods. Scar on his face, tall, doesn't blink much. "I knew his father. Liked dogs more than people. Must run in the family." Bobby exhales, slow. "That boy works for a crew out of Camden. Quiet lot. Don't deal in dope. Don't play the flashy game. They do one thing and they do it well. Leverage." Tommy frowns. "Blackmail," Bobby explains. "They find your mess before you know you've made it. Then they hold it, like a match above dry curtains." Tommy says nothing, but something inside him stiffens. "They don't care about Glasgow," Bobby continues. "They care about control. And you've become a problem for them." Tommy already knows. The Burnside slip up, the diner stranger, Skinny Lynch's fall. It's all been too neat, too orchestrated. They've been circling, trying to find his blind spot. He just doesn't have one. Yet, there's more, Bobby adds. "Your name came up in a poker game 2 weeks ago. A man from London asked if anyone had a clean shot at the delivery boy with a spine." He chuckles bitterly. Everyone folded. Tommy leans back. "Why tell me?" Bobby shrugs. "Because I owe your old man, and because watching the English squirm is the only joy I've got left." Tommy stands. "Anything else?" Bobby hands him an envelope. No stamp, no name, just thick paper and folded weight. "Don't open it yet," he says. "Wait till the next message comes." Tommy pockets it, knows better than to peek. At the door, Bobby says, "They're going to test you again, soon." Tommy pauses. "Let them." He walks back down Mill Street, past windows that flicker and gutters that gurgle, past the ghost of who he used to be. That night he dreams he's standing on a roof. The city is below him, but it's not Glasgow. It's darker, older, built on something rotten. Crows circle. One lands on his shoulder. It whispers. He wakes up before he can hear the words. The next morning there's a bottle on his own doorstep. Not from him. Inside, a torn photo. Half a face, his, and a note. "You've made it personal." He tucks the photo into the hollow of his floorboard. Next to the bottle caps. Next to the gun. He opens Bobby's envelope. Inside is a name he knows, Gino, and a question written in ink. What would you do if he talked? Many people still think betrayal only happens when someone opens their mouth. But in Tommy's world, it starts the moment someone forgets who's watching. So, what do you think? If your oldest friend ends up being the crack in your wall, do you patch it or pull the house down? Tommy doesn't answer. He just walks the route and listens harder than ever. The watch sits on his nightstand, still ticking, still lying. It's been there for years. Silver, scuffed, the brand long worn off. Tommy's never used it to tell time. That's not why he keeps it. It belonged to his father, and it's broken. The second hand stutters at 11:13, jumps forward, then drops back again like it's unsure what direction life is supposed to go. A metaphor maybe, if you're the sort to see poetry in cracked glass and lost minutes. Tommy isn't. But tonight, the watch seems louder than usual. He holds it in his palm and listens. Tick, tick, stall, backwards again. In the dim light of his flat, surrounded by worn walls and silence, it feels like the city itself is stuck in the same loop. Stalling, shifting, rewinding. Like everyone's playing their part in a play that keeps restarting. And the question inside that envelope still hasn't stopped ringing. What would you do if he talked? Tommy hasn't seen Gino since the Barrowland. No word, no knock, no cigarettes flicked into puddles. Just absence. At first, Tommy told himself it was nothing. Gino's always been slippery. Comes and goes. Plays the long game. But the longer it lasts, the clearer it becomes. Someone's got to move first. He knows where Gino hides. Everyone in the business does, even if they pretend not to. A basement flat behind an old tailor's shop on Ball Grey Hill Road. The kind of place where noise goes to die. He walks there in the rain, not quickly, not dramatically, just deliberately. Boots on wet concrete. Watch in his pocket. The door is unlocked. Inside it smells of bleach and stale tea. And there he is, Gino, sitting on a crate, smoking, alone. Thought it might be you, he says. Doesn't look up. Didn't think I'd knock, Tommy replies. You don't knock. I do. When it's someone I knew before the milk turned red, Gino chuckles. Then, they got to me, Tom. But I didn't say anything. Tommy leans against the wall, arms crossed. They offered me out. Said they could make me disappear in a way that meant I still got paid. Did you say yes? No. Tommy watches him closely. But you didn't say no either. Gino meets his eyes now. And there it is. The guilt. Not thick. Not obvious. Just present. Like mold behind wallpaper. I stalled, Gino says. Bought time. Thought maybe I could warn you or fix it. Tommy says nothing. They know your habits. Your route. The names. They've been circling. Tommy already knows. Gino takes a long drag, exhales smoke that seems to curl like regret. They want Mrs. McGinty. They know about the birds. Tommy's hands clench. And they know about the depot. About Bill's Land's cash under the floorboards. They know you're not just the delivery boy anymore. There's a long silence. Finally, Gino says, I didn't talk. But I didn't stop them either. So what do I do with that? Tommy asks. I don't know, Gino whispers. But whatever it is, do it quick. They won't ask again. Tommy doesn't answer. He just turns, walks out. No blow, no warning. Not yet, because there's something worse than violence. Distance. He lets Gino sit in that basement and think. Let him wonder what kind of man Tommy is. Whether he's still the friend who shared cigarettes in alleyways, or the one who leaves a bottle with no cap. Later that night, Tommy stops by Mrs. McGinty's. She's asleep. The pigeons stir as he steps lightly across the path. He opens the crate, leaves 2 bottles, one full, one empty, and tucked between them, his father's broken watch. She'll know what it means. Time's up. The next morning, Tommy starts early, adjusts his cap, walks the route like he always does. Only now, every step feels different. Every glance feels loaded, because the city isn't waiting anymore. It's watching. Many people still think betrayal happens in shouts, with slammed doors and thrown punches. But in this world, it arrives softly, with rain, with silence, with a friend who can't quite look you in the eye. So, what do you think? Is trust something you can repair with time? Or something that, once broken, ticks backward forever? Tommy doesn't check the watch. He already knows. The chip shop on Duke Street is the kind of place where secrets go to soak in grease and salt. The windows are always fogged. The fryer never sleeps. And if you sit in the back booth with the view of the alley and your coat zipped up, people will assume you're just killing time or blood pressure. Tommy Callahan doesn't come here often, but today he does. He takes his chips without vinegar, sits facing the door, sips from a bottle of Earn brew that tastes like sugar and a dare, and waits. The man who slides into the seat across from him isn't dressed like a cop, but he might as well be. He's too neat, too polite, too clean. Even his voice feels ironed when he speaks. You've been busy. Tommy says nothing. The man doesn't push, just unwraps his own chips. Doesn't eat. We've been watching. Not officially, of course. That's not how this part of town works. But you've got fans and concerns. Tommy lifts an eyebrow. You're efficient, the man continues. You don't draw lines unless you have to, but lately you've been drifting closer to them. Tighter circles, fewer errors. He sips his soda. You're moving like someone who knows what's coming. Still, Tommy doesn't speak. The man smiles faintly. That's what makes this hard. Tommy leans forward, calm. Then don't do it. The man exhales. We're not here to take you in. That ship sailed 5 years ago. Too many dead witnesses, too many frightened neighbors. You're useful, but you're also unstable now. You've gotten unpredictable. Tommy tilts his head. You know who else gets called unpredictable? He says. People who stop doing what others expect. A pause. The man continues more carefully now. There's talk of moving against Bill's land, cleaning out the quiet ones, making space for new arrangements. You're not the only courier in this town anymore. Tommy nods, and now it's his turn. You came here to offer me a deal, he says. The man pauses just a beat too long. Tommy continues, voice still soft. Don't waste my time pretending it's something else. The man reaches into his coat and places an envelope on the table. It's unmarked, unassuming. Inside is information, names, schedules, safe houses, routes. Give us Bill's land, the man says. Give us 2 addresses. We'll let the rest burn quietly. You? You walk. Milkman retires. Tommy stares at the envelope, doesn't touch it. Instead, he finishes his drink, carefully, quietly, then stands. You think I'd deliver for Billsland, he says. But I never did. The man frowns. You're on his payroll. Tommy nods. So are the crows. Doesn't mean they know the rules. He walks away without looking back. The man doesn't follow. That night, Tommy burns the envelope in a tin bin behind a shuttered shop. Watches the flames curl the edges of the pages. Watches the ink smear into gray and ghost shapes. He's not sure who that man really works for. Could be police. Could be London. Could be someone worse. It doesn't matter, because now Tommy knows something. He's the last person on either side who still understands what the game was meant to be. Not flashy, not rich, just clean, precise. Message in, message out. No mess unless asked for. But lately, the city has been asking for blood, and blood answers loudly. He returns to his flat to find a note under the door. It says, "You said no, they're coming anyway." No name, no signature. He recognizes the handwriting. Gino's. So what do you think? If a man is warned by the same friend he stopped trusting, does that mean forgiveness? Or just farewell? Tommy doesn't wait to figure it out. He empties the hidden drawer under the floorboard. 2 revolvers. 1 clean shirt. 3 bottles with coated caps. And a map of Glasgow with red circles around 3 postcodes that haven't seen trouble yet. He's not running. He's preparing. Because whatever is coming, it's not the police, and it's not personal anymore. It's structural, and Tommy Callahan knows the structure better than anyone. He built it, 1 bottle at a time. Milk crates aren't just for bottles anymore. Not in Tommy Callahan's world. They've become filing systems, message boards, drop sites, and on certain mornings, death warrants. All stacked neatly in the back room of a dairy that still pretends it only deals in calcium and breakfast routines. This morning, he arrives early, earlier than usual. The depot is quiet, only a low hum from the refrigeration unit and the faint click of a radio playing a station no one listens to. Tommy walks straight past the lockers, the metal shelves, the smell of cardboard and bleach. In the corner, his crate. Not the delivery one, the other one. Black plastic, faded, cracked on one side. Inside, wrapped in brown wax paper, is a name and a cap. But this time there are 2 names, 2 addresses, and 1 word, finalize. It's rare. The word has weight. It doesn't just mean watch or warn or even hurt. It means clean. 2 men, 2 stories. One is a driver named Connell Firth. Young, loud, useful, until he stopped being careful. Tommy heard he sold off part of a route to a crew from Leeds. Never confirmed, but that kind of mistake spreads like mold. The other is a collector named Harris. Older, arrogant, likes to talk, likes to flirt with outsiders. No one's been able to trace the leaks, but Harris has had too many meetings with people who leave no footprints. Tommy doesn't flinch. He just packs the crate. Bottle with red wax for Connell means urgency. Bottle with green wax for Harris means deception. He builds the route, keeps the walk casual. Connell is first. Lives in a flat above a locksmith's, right near the canal. Young guy. Hair slicked like he wants to be in a band. Tommy waits outside the stairwell, spots him leaving for his shift, all swagger and rolled cigarettes. Tommy steps out. Connell freezes. Hey, mate, The bottle hits him square in the chest. Not hard, just enough to knock the wind out. It falls to the ground and rolls. The red wax cracks. That's all? Tommy says quietly. No more roots, no more leads. Connell, wide-eyed, nods. Later that night, he's on a bus out of town. Tommy doesn't know where. Doesn't care. He was never meant to stay. Harris is harder. He runs a circuit, plays smart, checks reflections, always pretends he's not pretending. Tommy doesn't follow. He waits. 2 days later, Harris comes to the depot. Regular pickup. Laughs too loud, pats backs. Wears a tie to collect invoices like he's a bloody accountant. When he gets home, there's a crate waiting at his door. Inside, 1 bottle, no milk. Just a single green wax cap with a crack down the middle. And beneath it, folded neatly, is a piece of wax paper with no writing. The message is clear. Harris doesn't return to work. No one hears from him again. Not even Gino. And speaking of Gino, Tommy finds him 2 nights later. Same basement flat. This time, the lights are off, but the door's unlocked. Gino sits in the dark. You finalized too, he says. I heard. Tommy doesn't reply. Gino looks tired. Older. They'll want more, you know. That was just the start. Tommy nods. You going to keep doing it? Tommy shrugs. I'll stop when there's no more noise. Gino chuckles once. So never then. Tommy stands, leaves a bottle on the table. Full. Blue wax, no note. Gino stares at it like it's a confession. You ever miss being just a milkman? He asks. Tommy pauses at the door. I still am. Many people still think a hitman needs to hide behind masks and aliases. But in Glasgow, in these streets, all it takes is 1 crate, 1 bottle, 1 cap, and everyone knows exactly what it means. So what do you think? Is a man more dangerous when he uses weapons? Or when he doesn't need them at all? Tommy doesn't ask. He just walks home. On the way, a pigeon lands near his foot. It's carrying a note. Next one's personal. He reads it, crumples it, keeps walking. There's a bus that leaves from the old depot near Queen Street every morning at 5:35 a.m. Empty most days, except for the odd cleaner, night nurse, or someone running from something they'll never name. Tommy Callahan boards that bus just before dawn. No suitcase, no coat, just his boots, a sealed envelope, and a silence that could knock out the driver if it got any heavier. He doesn't plan to stay on the bus. He's not running. He's bait. The tip came through Mrs. McGinty's pigeons again. 2 birds circling, one with a clipped wing. That's the signal. A location had been compromised. The safe flat in Postle Park. The one where Isla Devine had been hidden. Tommy arrives to find the door open. Quiet. Too quiet. The kind that suggests someone already swept the room of evidence and respect. Inside, there's blood. Not much. Just a trail, a smudge, a dropped earring. No Isla. She's gone. The message is clear. They're done being subtle. That's when he decides to take the bus. It's a long ride out to the industrial outskirts. Rows of warehouse shells, all rusted and forgotten, all smelling of diesel and broken contracts. Perfect ground for an ambush. Tommy knows they're watching him. Probably have been since the Gino incident. So he gives them something to follow. He gets off the bus at a stop with no shelter. walks along the road slowly, hands in his pockets. By the time he hears the footsteps behind him, he's already counting his heartbeats. 3 men, 2 close, 1 further back, hanging in the wings. He walks faster, rounds a corner into an alley behind a grain storage plant, stops, waits. The first 2 men step in. They're young, eager, London accents, one of them faking Glaswegian slang like a pantomime. "You're Callahan?" Tommy turns. The pause is only half a second. Then the first man swings. Tommy ducks, slams a head against the corrugated wall. The second man grabs at him, knife out. But Tommy's already moved, already pressed a small metal bottle against his ribs. The cap is blue wax, still sealed. "This," Tommy says, "is full of bleach and regret. You want to see what happens if I take the cap off?" The man freezes. Tommy headbutts him. Hard. The third man never appears. He leaves the other 2 groaning. Not dead, but wishing for stillness. He walks until he finds a working phone box. Feeds it coins. Calls Gino. No greeting. Just, "They came for me." That makes it official. Gino's voice is quiet. "They've got Billsland." Tommy goes still. "When?" "Last night. No announcement. No shot. Just gone." "Dead?" "No idea." But the office was stripped. His cleaner's missing. His driver's car is still running in the lot. Tommy says nothing. Gino adds, "They're moving fast now, want to erase the whole board." Tommy hangs up without saying goodbye. He knows what comes next. He walks back into the city. Not quickly, no urgency, just focus. There's a storage unit under a false name near Maryhill Road. Inside, among crates and old crates of glassware, is a black bag he never hoped to use. Inside the bag, a change of clothes, 3 wax bottles, each one labeled with a number, not a name. This was always the failsafe. The plan for when plans stopped working. He takes one of the bottles. Number 2, delivers it to a flat on Garnet Hill, leaves it at the door. No knock. Inside, a list, 4 names. One of them is his own. Someone wants him gone now, openly, officially, and the list confirms it. Tommy isn't just a threat. He's the last one who remembers how it started. They want the Milkman erased. Many people still think silence is a survival tactic, but Tommy knows better. Silence is a weapon. So what do you think? If a man has been hunted by ghosts, betrayed by friends, and left holding the city's secrets, does he vanish? Or does he deliver something else entirely? Tommy walks to the depot. The crates are stacked wrong. The lads are missing, but his cart is still there. He grips the handle and starts rolling. The garden shed is small. Tin roof. Wood panels warped by years of Glasgow rain and indifference. It sits behind a house no one's lived in since 1984. A place people say is haunted. Though in this city, that word tends to mean we'd rather not ask questions. Tommy Callahan opens the padlock with a key that isn't his, slips inside, and bolts the door behind him. He doesn't come here often. It's too personal, too quiet. Inside, there's a single folding chair, a shelf with jam jars full of old screws, a rusted tin kettle that's never boiled anything, and under a dusty tarp, a shoebox. Tommy lifts it gently, places it on the floor, opens the lid. Inside, a revolver wrapped in tea cloth. 6 bullets in a film canister, a letter, and a photo. The photo is black and white, creased and faded. It's of his mother, holding a milk bottle, smiling. Tommy stares at it for a long time. He doesn't remember the smile, just the silence. Her hands in the sink, never trembling. Her eyes that always looked slightly past him. She died when he was 17. He buried her with a bottle cap in her coat pocket. It was green. Keep going, it meant. The revolver is heavier than he remembers. Not because of weight, because of history. He loads it slowly, like a ritual. No rush, just motion. Then he opens the letter. It's not one he wrote. It's from Gino. Years ago. A joke letter. They used to write mock wills when they were 19, drunk on borrowed whiskey and dangerous laughter. The first line says, "If you're reading this, you're either very bored or very doomed." Tommy smiles, barely. At the bottom, in his messy scrawl, Gino had written, "Don't go out sad, go out right." Tommy refolds the paper, leaves the box open. He doesn't need to carry the gun yet, but he knows now. It's getting close. He makes tea, sips it cold, and waits. The knock comes at dusk. Not at the shed, at the front gate. A young lad, no older than 17, eyes wide, voice shaking. "Mr. Callahan, they sent me. I didn't want to come, but..." Tommy holds up a hand. The boy stops. "Envelope?" Tommy asks. The boy nods, pulls it from his pocket, shaking hands. Tommy takes it, doesn't open it. "You run home," he says, "right now, and don't speak to anyone." The boy nods, runs. Tommy waits until he's gone, then opens the envelope. Inside is a single phrase. "Your time slot is booked, midnight. No witnesses." Beneath it, a map of the city. One street circled, Billsland Street, and in thick black ink beneath the circle, "Bring the gun." Tommy folds the paper once, places it into his coat pocket. Then, for the first time in months, he takes the revolver from the shoebox and slips it into the hidden lining of his coat. He walks outside. The sun's gone. The wind picks up. The city exhales something cold. He walks into it. No cart, no bottles, just the man the city built out of errands and silence. He doesn't rush, but every step now feels like a return, because the garden shed was never for hiding. It was for deciding. And tonight, Tommy Callahan has made his. Many people still think a confession comes in a booth, whispered through a mesh screen. But Tommy knows better. Sometimes it comes in a garden shed, with tea gone cold, a gun in your coat, and no one left to save you but yourself. So what do you think? Is this redemption, or just the calm before the final bottle is delivered? Tommy doesn't ask. He just keeps walking. Duke Street after dark is a different creature. The shop fronts slump like drunks waiting for the first tram. Litter skitters in nervous loops around the curbs. Windows glare down like judges, and everyone who matters is either inside, watching from behind curtains, or long gone. Tommy Callahan walks it alone. His steps are measured, unhurried, one hand in his pocket, the other brushing against the outline of the revolver tucked beneath his coat. He passes the old chemist with the shutter stuck halfway down. The pub where Gino once broke a glass in someone's jaw for calling Tommy the Milk Fairy. The chip shop with the best lies in the East End. Open late, it says, but they're never open past 10. All the landmarks of a life spent moving silently through a city that no longer wants silence. At exactly 11:49 p.m., he arrives at the address. It's not Billsland's office. It's what used to be Billsland's office. Now it's a carcass. Windows smashed. Door frame cracked. The electric services sign hanging by one screw, flapping like a tongue trying to warn him away. He steps inside anyway. It smells of dust and something deeper. Abandonment, maybe. Or rot. The stairs creak. Upstairs, he finds the room circled on the map. Room 3B. The lock is gone. The door swings open like it's been waiting for him. Inside, empty. No ambush, no gunman. Just a single desk, a chair, and a tape recorder. Tommy closes the door behind him. Doesn't sit. The recorder clicks on by itself. A voice plays. Not English, not local. Gino. He speaks softly. "If you're hearing this, it means they wanted you to pull the trigger before you knew the whole story. I couldn't stop them. I tried, but I'm not you. I don't scare them." Pause. Billsland's gone, but not dead. He walked before they came. He knew it was ending. "Told me you were the only one who could finish it without burning the rest." Another pause. They're trying to push you into something loud, something final, because if they do, they can justify cleaning up after. They want you to pull the trigger. They need you to. Silence. Then, "Don't let them write your last chapter." Click. Nothing else. Tommy stands in the stillness of the room. For a long time, he says nothing. Then he takes the gun out, checks the chamber. It's still full. He sets it on the desk, walks back out. Outside, the wind has picked up. He walks north toward the river, and in a quiet little shop front near Gallowgate, he enters a building with no name, just a number, 55A. It used to be a pawnbroker's. Now, it's a message center. Inside, 3 crates, no labels. He opens one. Inside are wax-sealed bottles, old ones, his marks. Someone's been collecting them, watching. He hears a noise behind him, turns. Bilsland. Older, thinner, but very much alive. "Hello, Tommy," he says. "You've come far." Tommy nods. "No one told me you were alive. They weren't supposed to, but they sent that recording?" "Yes." "Then you know." Tommy steps forward. Not threatening, just present. "You left a mess." "I left room," Bilsland corrects. "Room for someone to take over who still understands what the city needs. And you're the only one left who still delivers." Tommy shakes his head. "Not anymore." Bilsland smiles faintly. "That's your choice. But I'd rather this all end quiet. You've earned that." Tommy considers it, then walks past him. No handshake, no orders, just silence. As he exits the building, he tosses the gun into the Clyde. Doesn't watch it sink. That night, he doesn't go home. He goes to Mrs. McGinty's, leaves a bottle, half full, blue wax. No note. She'll understand. Many people still think endings come with explosions or courtrooms or funerals, but in Tommy Callahan's world, endings come like milk bottles left before dawn. Quiet, deliberate, final. So what do you think? If a man walks away from the war with both hands clean, but every step soaked in history, did he win? Tommy doesn't answer. He just disappears into the city he once delivered. And this time, there are no more bottles to carry. The sun rises over Glasgow like it forgot to ask permission. Golden light slips through the cracks in the tenement blinds, casts long shadows over doorsteps where secrets sleep beside yesterday's milk bottles. The streets are quiet, not silent, just hushed, like the city is holding its breath between chapters. Tommy Callahan sits on the steps of a church that no longer holds services. His coat is folded beside him. His hands rest on his knees. No bottles, no gun. Just a thermos of tea that's gone lukewarm and a city waking up slower than it should. He doesn't look tired. He looks finished. Behind him, pigeons flutter across the rafters, cooing low like they know the story's reached the edge of its map. For years, Tommy was a name whispered between gates, over fences, under breath. Now he's just another man watching traffic. He opens a small envelope, cream paper, folded twice, no seal. Inside, a photo. Isla, smiling, somewhere warm, a drink in her hand, sunglasses crooked on her nose. On the back, "Found my place, thank you." He lets out a long breath, the kind people exhale when they finally stop bracing for impact. It's over, not because someone said so, or because the violence stopped, but because he stopped delivering. The crates at the depot are gone. The bottles, collected or broken. The codes, dissolved. Someone else might try to revive it, rebuild the roots, but they'll never make it what it was. That world belonged to people like him, and those people, they're ghosts now. Mrs. McGinty still leaves out seed, still nods when she sees him on her walk, but there are no more coated feathers, no birds with clipped wings, just pigeons, like it was always meant to be. Gino left town. No note. Tommy doesn't blame him. The city's quieter without him. Not better, just quieter. And the streets, they remember. Every cap, every knock, every decision wrapped in wax and walked into someone's life like a secret no one asked for. Glasgow doesn't write down history. It stores it, in bricks, in habits, in old men with tired hands. Tommy Callahan finishes his tea, stands up slowly. He doesn't look back at the church. He doesn't need to. He walks down the hill toward the river, not for drama, not to vanish, just for the view. And as the morning takes shape, trams rattling, dogs barking, kettles hissing, he becomes one more piece of the background. Just a man who once carried bottles and delivered more than milk. Many people still think legends end with fanfare, but the real ones? They end in the soft clink of glass on stone. A last walk, a deep breath. So what do you think? Is the milkman still out there? Or has he finally poured his last drop? Tommy doesn't answer. He never has. He just disappears into daylight. The streets are still now. You might imagine them with a faint drizzle falling. Or maybe just the last of the dawn breeze curling down alleys that once echoed with footfalls and quiet warnings. The kind of morning where even the air holds its voice. In your mind's eye, picture the figure walking away. Not quickly, not triumphantly, but with the soft rhythm of a man who said all he needed to. His footsteps blending into the hum of a city waking up. The crates are empty. The cart is still. The cap's been sealed one last time. And if you listen closely, there's nothing left to hear, just stillness. So, as your own room quiets and your eyes grow heavier, let the city fade with the story. Let the milk routes soften into dreams. Let Tommy Callahan walk far ahead, into a version of Glasgow only he can reach now. The job's done. You're safe. Sleep well, stranger.